Hello there, it is Bronze Modern Gods. I'm John.
And I'm Richard.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I beseech you, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods. And Richard, if they like watching us on the YouTube, what should they do to help us out?
Please hit the thumbs up button, like and subscribe, and hit the little bell so that when we go live, you are announced, you're let known, and you can enjoy our content.
Sure, what he said. Hey, you know how we do this here. It's a viewer mail today. We also have our underrated books of the week, the 25-year rule. But Richard, let's start off with our hot book of the week. What is it, my friend?
You're going to make me pronounce this, huh?
Good for you. El
Okay.
Sorprendente Hombre Araña, issue 128 from 1972 from La Prensa.
You cheat because you have a husband that speaks Spanish.
I'm cheating. I'm cheating.
Yeah, this is an interesting book. This book was published back in 1972 by La Prensa. Actually, they licensed these stories from Marvel. They actually talked to Stan Lee, and apparently they weren't getting stories quick enough from the United States. They wanted more stories through their Mexican audience, so Stan actually allowed them to commission Mexican writers and artists to do Spider-Man stories.
What happened was this was being published bi-weekly instead of monthly. So they caught up real quick. And just another little fact, this was happening in other countries besides Mexico as well. That's why they launched Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man as a second title in 1976. So they had more stuff for the foreign territories to reprint.
Wow, I didn't know that. Well, this is the reason why this book is in particular is important is it tells an alternative storyline for Spider-Man. Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy were a popular couple in the Mexican stories, and when Marvel decided to kill off Gwen Stacy, that didn't go over very well. And so what happened was they got permission to write stories with Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. And this particular issue is when Peter Parker marries Gwen Stacy, which obviously didn't happen in the American version of the book. But it's a popular storyline in for collectors because it is that alternative.
Yeah, it's like a Spider-Verse almost. It's a different timeline
Yeah.
where Gwen survives and they get married. Of course, about a year later, it all ends up being a dream. Spoiler.
Yeah, that's kind of cheating, but you appreciate the work that was done, not necessarily the way it ended. But uh, this book has always had a certain level of popularity with collectors. There have been over the years several. I'm going to call them German reprints, which have been really just photocopies with the story translated into a different language. There have been some other photocopied versions of this book out there too. Finally, in 2021, La Mole actually did a licensed reprint of this book, both a yellow copy like the original in foil, and then a purple foil, which is both actually gorgeous. Like most of the stuff La Mole does, it's a really really great presentation. These books sold out almost immediately. Fortunately, I have a friend who happens to go to Mexico quite often
Hey,
and managed to sneak me a copy out of the country. So I have a copy of both of them. I appreciate that.
but Richard, why is it the hot book of this week, though?
Well, the reason why is on November 29th, we had a record sale this week, and a 6.5 went for $35,000.
Wow, that's insane.
$35,000 for this book. Yeah, that is amazing. And I don't know if this prompted the asking prices that are in the store right now. There's a 8.5 CBCS that's listed at 125,000 and a 7.5 listed at around 65,000.
8.5 and 7.5 for these books are like 9.8s, 9.9s for any other book because the La Prensa books were printed on newsprint, and that newsprint includes the cover stock. It wasn't on heavier, glossy cover stock, so that cover just takes a beating. I don't know. I was going to say those prices don't surprise me. They kind of do. I think those are really strong prices, especially in this bear market. But it just speaks to the scarcity. One thing I got to do when I was down at La Mole last year in Mexico City is I got to meet Jose Luis Duran, and I got a couple of his, little printout poster things here. And this one, I got signed by the master
Ah,
himself,
awesome.
and it has a little authenticity sticker there. But this is the cover to Hombre Araña 128, and you can see there's the wedding, and the nicest guy answered all our questions. We did an interview with him. Of course, it was in Espanol. We have to figure out a way to translate it, but here's some footage from it, so you can see that I'm not full of it. He was just the sweetest guy. His son's his manager. He was a great guy too. And these Mexican variants, there was a time the last few years, you guys who follow us on Instagram have seen in our live sales, there was a time when I could swoop down there with Raphael, snatch up a whole bunch of books, bring them back, and make some coin. Those days are rapidly ending. We went back down there last month, and all of our usual honey holes have been just depleted. It wasn't me. I mean, I did stop at some point. But our antique fair that we go to, our normal contact there was like, yeah, other people are coming in, swooping in and buying these the minute I put them out. So the secret's out.
Yeah, it was inevitable. I mean, the popularity of these books and Mexico as a source of inexpensive and an untapped market, I think that was inevitable.
I think I need to start switching cities and go to Monterrey or
Yeah.
Las Cruces or some different
Mhm.
places instead of going to Mexico City all the time.
I did want to make one comment. The census on GPA lists the book for the La Mole reprint alongside the original book. There
Oh,
is, if you search for this book in issue 128, it shows a listing in GPA with two entries. One entry for a 9.6, which is the Lamole book, and that's selling for around 285. And then you see the recent sale of the 6.5 original book in that same listing for $35,000.
yeah, a bit of a difference there.
A bit of
So
a difference, and I just don't want people to be under, misinformed if they look at that to see that you know there are actually two different books in that one listing. So just to be forewarned.
well, now that you've got your marching orders for your next vacation down in Cabo, it's time for everyone's favorite segment, viewer mail.
You've got mail.
Richard, start us off, please.
I'll start off with Jet City Comics. He wrote, "I would love to see comics go back to newsprint." This is something I was I was campaigning for last week. I think they could sustain a title or two. Just give it a try to see how it goes. Tell some great Silver Age style stories. Yeah, I mean, DC does their black label. I can't see why they couldn't do a four color label or something like that and print a specialty book that was, on newsprint, and either um, put that out in volume, or even just make it a 500, 1,000 print run and just see how it goes. I think their collectors would be interested. I would be interested in it.
I just wonder the the actual practicality of doing so still is a question mark. Even from the artist level, because artists are drawing direct to digital now on a
Mhm.
tablet. Do they need to be inked in order to, for that ink to hit that newsprint correctly and not lose the detail? I don't know. It's a curious question. If it's
It
still,
is.
if it's cost effective, even.
But I look at the whole renaissance for vinyl as
Right?
something that's equivalent. Vinyl doesn't have to exist. The digital fidelity of a CD, the
How
old
dare you? Vinyl is much more than
vinyl has a warmth to it, right?
yes.
But vinyl is not necessary. You don't have to make vinyl. Yeah, okay, I'm talking about the wrong thing to the wrong person.
You're
But
stabbing me in like every major
well, that's
organ
the
at
whole
once.
thing. They
I
know,
know.
this could be the vinyl of comics. Let's
I hear
reprint
you.
these old books on their original format and do it in the old way. I know artists nowadays do digital work because they're able to pump out stuff faster, and some of them can do it better. But do we want inking to disappear as an art form? Because it's an art form.
Kind of is. I mean, I don't know who is still working on Bristol.
Mhm.
Some of the old guard like Ron Friends and Walt Simonson, but a lot of these guys, they smelled what was happening and pivoted and moved to digital. I mean, look at Todd McFarlane when they show him now when he's drawing. He's got that huge digital tablet. Have you seen this thing? It
Yeah.
looks like a desk. It's amazing. I want one. I'm sure it's thousands and thousands of dollars.
And lettering too is an art that is disappearing, which is sad.
It's all comic craft now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. On that happy note, let's go over to our friend Charlie Dog, who writes in. Hi, Richard and John. Love what you do. Your video is a weekly highlight among my YouTube viewing. Well,
Oh,
thank you,
thank you.
Charlie. I recently stumbled onto this at Key Collector, a blank acetate sheet under the guise of Conceptual Funnies #1, which CGC has graded and for which people have been paying big money over the last 2 years. Surely, this is a low point of the hobby. What's next? A slabbed grocery shopping list written by Stan Lee? Your thoughts. Charlie, we did cover this bad idea
Yeah.
on a video earlier this year. Yeah, I think the way I described it back then, Richard, tell me if I'm wrong, it was like this is the most cynical thing I think I can
Mhm.
ever imagine. It shows such a contempt for collectors in the audience. You guys are morons. You'll buy anything. And we're going to prove it. We're going to put out this blank piece of acetate, slab it, a CGC complicit, giving
Mhm.
them the requested grades among that range from uh, zero point 0.5 to 9 to 10. Um, and boy, CGC really backed away from that when they got all that blowback. So, Charlie, it is. We have covered this. It's so friggin' cynical. I see bad ideas back. They're
Yeah.
publishing again after saying they're gone forever. I mean, it's just stunt after stunt after stunt. And, there you go. If you're into that, great. I'm
Yeah,
not.
it's marketing. It's not comics. It's 100% pure marketing. And I really, you mentioned CGC being complicit in the whole thing. I think it's a stain on their credibility.
Absolutely.
If a publisher can say, I want this book to be a 10.0 and I want this one to be a 9.8,
Mhm.
and they comply and do that, I think that cheapens people who submit a book for a legitimate grade.
To be fair, CGC did say to Bad Idea, "Can you please stop selling these?" And of course, Bad Idea complied, and yeah, that
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I the real tragedy about Bad Idea, I think, is there's good stuff hidden in
Mhm.
there. Uh, ENIAC, some of the David Lapham titles, there could be something legit there, and it's just so overshadowed by the hucksterism, the PT
Mhm.
Barnum sucker born every minute marketing. And would you like a bad idea donut, Richard?
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. It is the marketing is more important than the content, and that is not the way to make a comic book.
I mean, I'm as cynical as a marketer as they come, and even I got to step back and go, "Geez." All right, what's your next piece of your mail?
My next piece is from Doc Wild, also about the four color comic idea. I wish Marvel would at least do their reprints facsimiles in 60s, 70s books in newsprint.
Oh
Those
wow,
books weren't intended to be printed on glossy paper with oversaturated solid colors. Amen. Amen. I buy a lot of facsimiles. For example, I bought the Fantastic Four #1 facsimile. I was excited. I opened it up and read it, and it's all glossy paper and modern inks. It's not the same as reading it on newsprint. It
yeah,
just isn't. And I would love to see them do some of those books in the original paper. I'm reiterating what we've talked about previously, but I think there is a market for something like that of doing the newsprint, especially in these, reprinting the original books.
Doing the facsimiles like that makes a lot more sense to me than launching an 80-page giant Legion comic with new stories, like you said. The
Mhm.
facsimile thing is intriguing to me. That's a really good idea, Doc Wild. We will steal it and not give you credit. My next piece of viewer mail is in reference to my underrated book last week, Time Warp, which was a DC sci-fi answer to Heavy Metal and Epic Illustrated, done as a dollar comic on the newsstand with inventory stories. Good job there, DC. Comes from Beer Marshall. Wow, Time Warp. Didn't think I'd ever see that mentioned by anybody. The first issue came out, I believe, the same month as another dollar comic, All Out War, which for some reason I have, though I was never really a war collector, and $1 was a lot for me at that time. Beer Marshall, I have a full run of all 6 issues of All Out War.
Of course you
Not,
do.
yeah, not surprising to anyone. I don't think that title lasted very long either. Nope, 6 issues. Got on the first issue of Time Warp when it came out. Probably never saw the others, but then just as I was sort of getting back into comics around 2017, I stopped in my local shop and he told me he had the whole set in pretty nice condition, which I bought for I think $20. Good score.
Mhm.
Uh, cool guy, cool store. And alas, he went out of business early in the pandemic. Yeah, because he charged you $20 for a full run of Time Warp. Kaluta rocks. Yes, indeed, Mira Marshall. Thanks. Yeah, Time Warp was a fun book, and go get those covers. There, issue 5. I'm telling you, is the best cover in the run, and it's beautiful.
Excellent,
What
excellent.
you got?
Um, my next piece of viewer mail is from friend of the show, Pure Comic Collector. Another solid video, guys. Thank you. I'd love to hear your picks for $1,000 maximum book from DC or Marvel that you'd pick up right now because you think it's undervalued, or even a $500 maximum. Might be a fun segment. Thanks for the great content. That is a great idea. I haven't talked to John about this, but I think this is something that I want to do here coming up.
Want
Um,
to do it right now? I'm ready. I have 2.
you do?
I do.
Okay. What do you got?
$1,000 maximum, or even 500 maximum. The 2 biggest underrated Silver Age keys, and I've talked about one of them on the show before. Strange Tales 101, first solo Human Torch in the Silver Age,
Mhm.
also came out the same month as Fantastic Four number 7. You can get this book for a song, even in high grade. It is just astounding to me that nobody goes after this book. And Strange Tales Annual number 2, with Spider-Man and the Human Torch teaming up on the cover. I think it's the 4th appearance of Spider-Man,
Mm,
and it is a square bound. It is a title nobody collected, bumped around in quarter bins for decades, as we like to say. Split spines, you name it. A high grade copy is still surprisingly affordable of Strange Tales Annual number 2.
great pick. My pick would be, I think the Turtles books are undervalued tremendously. Turtles number 1, third print. You can, for $1,000, you can get a high grade raw, get it slabbed, and put it away, because I don't think they're ever going to be as cheap as they are right now.
How many of the third print? Do you know off the
There
top of
are,
your
is it 30,000 of the third print?
Okay, because yeah, the second print was like 6,000 or something like that, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
So
2,000
you
for the
guys,
first. Yeah.
you guys tell
So
us if I'm way off. Yeah, that's a good one too. Oh well, my next piece of viewer mail is from Four Stringer Bass. Great vid, guys. Alfred. Alfred. Alfred was the original man in the chair. The dynamic back at Wayne Manor is so off without his presence. I kind of like that Joker storyline until that payoff. I was out after that. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Richard and I discovered to our horror last week that Alfred was killed off in the comics, and how out of touch we are with Batman and what's happening in the Batman mythos. We had no clue. Um, that still, I did see a video this week. I think it was What Culture Comics,
mhm.
the 10 most shocking moments in comics history or something. And Alfred dying was one of the top 10, and it explained how and why. I hate it even more now. I didn't think I hated the idea enough. Now I really hate it. Bane snapped his neck. Of course,
Mhm. Yeah.
ooh, edge lord. Ooh, yeah, good stuff, man.
Bane's good at breaking things, isn't he?
I
It was a
just
terrible idea. I mean, you don't I mean, the thing that Alfred provides to Batman is that center, that conscience against the raging animal that is, seeking vengeance. And without him, he loses that, and he doesn't have that humanity. So I think they have no choice but to bring him back.
what happens is people like this get to go into the playground and then break all the equipment, and they're looked at as being like really great writers and visionaries, but then they get to leave and go on to the next assignment and leave the playground all broken for the
Mhm,
next guy that comes along who doesn't get to play with the same toys. uh, that's why stories like Alan Moore's Superman, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, it's classic. People love that story. Yeah, because he got to break all the toys with no way of no responsibility to leave it for the next person.
mhm.
Uh, it was an imaginary story. But when you're doing stories in continuity and you kill off people and characters that are really important, you know, you're screwing it up for the next creative team. Gwen Stacy was not important. I'm gonna
Yeah,
just say that.
I
You can
agree.
kill Yeah, she was a cipher, right? I mean, she's a pretty blonde girl that Peter likes. Of course he does. She's a pretty blonde girl. There's nothing to her. Um, Mary Jane, however, was a character, is a
Right.
character.
Mhm.
So that's not really breaking the toys at the playground, but killing Aunt May is breaking the toys at the
Right.
playground. So I don't know. People will disagree, I'm sure, but I just have a real problem with
Mhm.
writers that get to just break shit and then leave. Oops, break stuff. I meant.
No, you can't get rid of Aunt May. You can't get rid of, the Kents, because they're grounding and they're the humanity for these people who do things that are on the bounds of losing their humanity, the violence that they have to deal with. You have to have that counterpoint. Otherwise, it's impossible to tell a well-rounded story.
I agree with you. I'm just not. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just saying this before somebody says it in the comments. Richard, the Kents died in the original Superman. They were brought back. There. So I'm just
Okay, well,
preempting that comment from
sure.
someone.
I understand, but to me, Pa Kent and Ma Kent are a part of Superman, and without that, he isn't grounded to Earth. He is a cosmic character. It's those two people who keep him as a part of planet Earth.
I think John Byrne was smart bringing them back in the reboot in the '80s, bringing Ma and Paula Kent back. Uh, because it was a way of shoring up that supporting cast. However, making Lana Lang a Manhunter maybe not the best move
Yeah, okay, I agree with you there
for
totally.
those that remember that. All right, what's your next piece of viewer mail?
My next piece of mail is from Three Rivers Comics. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the second print release of Pop Kill 4, the Adam Hughes adult variant.
Oh,
First
geez,
print.
this is all you.
I know. I saw this comment and just picked it out without even thinking about it. The first print is 1,500, plus in a 9.8 now, and raws go for 500 to 800. Yeah, this came out. I totally missed this. I'm upset that I missed this. I usually catch on these kinds of these variants, but didn't catch this one. So, the company that produces, who put out Pop Kill, reprinted issue number one, the first print, and they used the artwork. They went back to Adam Hughes and commissioned a totally nude version of the cover that he used on issue 4 that they sold through their Kickstarter. Um, it sold out instantly, as you can imagine. They tried to limit it to 3 copies. I appreciate that, but that didn't help. It still sold out just instantly. You can find raws right now on eBay for around 200 to 250, sometimes 300. I would not pay that much for it. I think this is partly going to be FOMO, and after a while, we'll see the prices settle around 200, Um, and I still think that's a great deal. I mean, given as Three River Comics says, the first print is a $1,500 book in a 9/8. That is because of the scarcity. I think there was 300 copies printed. I forget the exact print run for the Kickstarter, but it's a small print run, and so the books that are out there are going to command a premium, and it's a great cover. It's a great Adam Hughes cover. It's very dynamic, and it has some obvious pluses to it if you've seen it.
Is it
Um,
3D?
no, it's not 3D. So this second print is going to be the way that anybody who wants a copy of that $1,500 book to have a copy. So and the copy has some things that the original didn't have.
A couple of them.
A couple
Um,
of them.
this is a Kickstarter. We don't talk a lot about Kickstarter titles because a lot of them just don't make this kind of noise. But
Mhm.
this is from Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor's company, correct?
I believe so. Yeah.
They have done some killer Kickstarter stuff. So especially, it's all you with your good girl art. So you should probably really be following Jimmy and Amanda on
I
Kickstarter. So
I
you,
probably should.
yeah,
You're absolutely right.
get that set up, get on their mailing list. My last piece of your mail comes to us from our Instagram account. Joel M slid into our DMs and said, "John and Richard, enjoy the podcast. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Hey now, 2 weeks ago, you had Ali from Elite Comics 11 talking about the good deals on comics on his page. Last week, we had Black Friday deals everywhere, but I'm curious on your opinion. When is the best time to buy your comics, back issues, grails, etc.? Is it at the beginning of the end of the year, during con season? Is it now? Love the show. Happy holidays." I never thought about this because I never um, set aside a time like, okay, now I'm gonna go buy books. It just
Mhm,
kind of happens. I see something, and if it's a good deal, I will say this is probably a killer time because you've got the bear market
mhm.
and you have the holiday season. So a lot of money is going to things other than comic books. So dealers are not making that coin, especially after getting spoiled rotten for 2 years, where money was just being shoved in their faces by us collectors saying, "Here, take it, take it." It's that Fry GIF. Take my money, please. Drama. Um, and so this might actually be the best time. And it's like cars. This is the best time to buy a car right now.
Yep.
Um, End of the month, though. Don't do it now. Uh,
Yep.
so what do you think?
I think personally, January is the best month to buy pretty much anything. Mainly because the holiday seasons are over. People have spent their money during the holiday season on
Mm.
presents and things like that. And their disposable income is pretty low.
The
So
bills are coming in.
so I've noticed that that in a combination of auction houses, they have they run auctions on Mondays and Sundays. I think those are probably the best days if you're looking for a low turnout in terms of a crowd for competition for a book. Turn to Heritage is one, ha.com. Um, Follow their auctions and watch their auctions because they go by pretty quickly. And if you're not present to be able to put in a bid, and you literally it's over, the bidding is over in anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds. If the number of people who are out there who want to bid against you is low, you can get some amazing deals. So if you look over the auctions for for coming up on January, probably February, again, it's a slow time for people in terms of spending. It's a great time if you're looking to buy because you will have less competition, and I think the prices you can get off things is going to be probably the best you're going to get. Because after that, you get into March, you start looking at springtime, and the convention cycle starts, and people are focusing on comics again.
You were texting me uh, early this week that you were going to try to go on Monday to to Heritage. Did you? Did you get a
I
chance?
did.
Yeah.
I
Any
did.
deals?
They didn't have anything I wanted. There was a lot of books that went for a good price. The one problem with it with Heritage is you got to pay a 20% premium.
Oh my God.
Yeah, 20% buyer's premium. So if you, for example, if I wanted to sell a book and I was looking to buy books to sell, $20 book, $30 book, things like that, you're paying an extra $6, $8 on that book, which potentially means you're not going to get as much of a return on it. So I would reserve it for the bigger books. You come across some Silver Age Spider-Man or X-Men, things like that are going for the cheap. There weren't any in this auction. This auction had a lot of war stuff and Nick
Yeah.
Fury stuff, which I
I
wasn't really
was
that interested in.
Of course, I was looking at that, but I was the stuff I'm saving my money for is the December 11th Golden Age auction because
Oh,
there's a few things. I'm not telling you guys, but there's a few things I'm looking at in there that I hope I can score a deal. I kind of think I'm not going. I can just tell you guys, Captain America: The Weird Tales '74. I'm not going to score a deal on that, but I am watching it for
yeah,
sure.
watch it. You never know. All it takes is this, your competition being stuck watching, something else and missing the window because it really is
Yeah.
a 15-second window for you to bid on that book. I do recommend anybody who's going to bid on any of these auction houses ahead of times. Create your account, assign your credit card and your payment method, get everything all set up so that when the auction actually starts, you can go in and bid and be able to put your bid in instantly because then um, you won't run the risk of losing out on something that you want.
It's a very good point because there is a threshold where you have to be pre-approved by Heritage over a certain dollar amount. So you want to get that pre-approval before the auction happens, or you're not going to be eligible to bid over a certain amount. So get
Right.
that done. Blah blah blah. 25-year rule. No, no.
I actually like that one. That was unabashedly, we're
Yeah,
just
I was on a streak there, and I think it was time to break that streak of good segues with a really lazy one. Speaking of lazy, who remembers when Marvel ruined the Ultraverse? I
uh,
do.
has
Did
it
you
been
ever?
really that long?
It's been that long since the Ultraverse ended. Today, we are talking about Ultraverse Future Shock #1, the final Ultraverse comic book. Wah, wah. This was a double-sized wrap-up that tied up all the loose ends floating around when all the other Ultraverse Universe titles got canceled. What did I just say? Ultraverse Universe? Yeah, when they got canceled. That's right. For those who don't know, the Ultraverse was a creator-driven superhero universe published by Malibu Comics in the 1990s. Kind of Malibu, their answer to Image Comics. Image was originally published by Malibu Comics. Then, after they got their feet underneath them, they went off on their own. So Malibu was left with a big hole in their publishing schedule, and they reached out to creators like Steve Englehart, Howard Chaykin, all these people, Jim Starlin. And so these creators got to participate financially in their creations in a way that Marvel and DC did not offer at the time. It's been very murky about what rights they retained.
Uh,
No one's really come out and said they were creator owned. If Malibu had a percentage of each creation, no one's really come out and said what that deal was. Uh, Now, fast forward a couple years, Ultraverse is doing okay. The big selling point for the Ultraverse was the computer coloring. They were the originators and the pioneers in full computer coloring, Malibu Graphics. So Marvel saw this and they said, "Hey, we want to buy your entire computer coloring department. Oh yeah, I guess we'll buy everything. And take that Ultraverse stuff with us." They didn't seem to know what to do with it. What ended up happening was it's over here in its own pocket universe away from the Marvel universe, but every once in a while you get a weird crossover with Rune and Venom.
mm.
Uh, they take characters like the Black Knight and Loki and have them leave the Marvel universe to enter the Ultraverse universe, never to return. I mean, that was a big deal. The Black Knight was never going to return. Of course, he came back.
So did Loki.
Yeah, exactly. Ultraverse Future Shock sells for about $1 on eBay. I liked the Ultraverse quite a bit at first. I really liked Strangers, the team book. I liked Prime, which was kind of like
Mhm.
Captain Marvel, Shazam. Did you read any of these?
I read Prime, yeah.
Yeah.
Early Prime, I did.
Norm Brayfogle, that was good.
Mhm.
The writer who cannot be named because of his heinous crimes, unfortunately. Uh, it is doubtful we're ever going to see the Ultraverse stuff ever revived or ever reprinted because the rights issues must be a nightmare because
Mm.
no one even wants to go near it. No one wants to talk about it. No one wants to even say what the rights issues are. If I was to put on my speculation hat, I would say if you are Steve Englehart and Rick Hoberg and you created Strangers, you own 80% of Strangers and Malibu owns 20. Well,
Mm.
okay. You're not Malibu anymore. You're Marvel, you're Disney now. You don't care to give 80% of potential revenue to two creators when you can just use the Avengers
Right,
and much easier on yourself. The cost analysis does not add up.
that's sad because I think that that same analysis is going to work against a lot of things that Marvel has acquired over the years. It's just not worth paying someone royalties when you've got all these characters that are already, making you billions of dollars.
Right.
There's just really no reason to.
It's even worse than that. You would be kid. You would be let's say okay. We're gonna put out an Ultraverse omnibus. An omnibus for a universe that hasn't had a book published in 25 years. So
Yeah,
talk about a niche market. You've got a small market that's even smaller, and then you're taking a huge chunk of your uh, profits and giving it right to the creators. Yeah, it's just not going to happen, guys. It's. I would love to be proven wrong. One of you creators, Jim Starlin or someone, get in the comments and come on the show and tell me why I'm wrong. But I don't think I am,
I don't
sadly.
think they'll either. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah. I liked what was the other one? Slime by Steve Gerber.
Didn't
That
read
was
that.
like his man thing one, his man thing riff. Ah, I loved it. Those books were so underrated. Hey, that's a segue for underrated book of the week. Richard, what do you have?
My underrated book this week is a new book. It's from 2022. Harley Quinn number 13, the Adam Hughes Catwoman number 51 homage.
You are
Uh,
all Adam all the time.
I am. I am a huge fan of Adam Hughes. He has a very classic art style to him, and that appeals to me. Kind of counters my love for Adam Hughes or for Art Adams because they're different. They do different type of artwork, but Adam Hughes is definitely a fan. I'm a fan of his. This is, like I said, it's a Catwoman number 51 homage where she's standing in front. She's got the sign in front of her for a lineup. It's the first appearance of a villain called Verdict. Verdict kills her victims by using an ice cream scoop and scooping out their eyes.
Hey kids, comics.
Exactly. Yeah, the half this comic actually talks about how gross it is, the crime scene. So that
Would
it's
that
got that
kill
going.
you though?
Huh? It wouldn't do you any good.
Would it
Um,
kill you?
would it kill you? Probably not. But if he kept scooping beyond the eye,
Yeah,
then
oh
it's
yeah.
definitely gonna do something.
Gonna get some of that white meat.
I have to say the art style for this series right now, I just don't care for it. That's my personal opinion. The writing, I wasn't a fan of the writing either. Whether or not this character is going to be anything or not is immaterial because to me, it is a combination of a new character being introduced, which is always the selling point, and this gorgeous cover of Harley Quinn on the cover with she's taken the letters on her lineup board and rearranged them to say something different, which is just perfect Harley. I love the artwork on this cover. I have to say this breaks my immediate rejection of any comic that has a trade dress and a virgin variant. I hate that whole precedent that exists now for both Marvel and for DC. We're going to make twice as much money off your comics because we're going to print a trade dress, print 1,500 copies for the trade dress, and then print 1,000 copies of the Virgin, but the only way you can get the Virgin is in a pair with the trade dress. I think that's just an underhanded way of selling comics. But I like the Virgin of this one. There is a trade dress version as well. The Virgin goes for about $130 if you're looking at 9.8. You can find the trade dress version still on Frankie's Comics. This is one of the sites that sold it. That's there for $20. If you want a copy of the trade dress of the book of this book, you can buy it, relatively inexpensively.
Nice.
But yeah, the Virgin is going for a lot more. You see it going for 80, $90. Um, I think this book has some staying power. Again, I'm not a fan of that dual printing, but I think this cover has some cachet. So if I saw it for $130, I would buy it.
I can't get past that there is a villain who kills her victims by scooping their eyes out with an ice cream scoop.
Yeah, well,
But
yeah,
the villain's name is Verdict. Why
yeah.
not Scoop or
That's not how it starts. She finds bad guys that the legal system, because Gotham legal system is corrupt, from the judges to the lawyers. So these people break the law and basically get a slap on the hand and are released back into the public. Verdict says, no, we're not doing that. We're going to punish people who deserve to be punished. So she beats him up and shoots machine guns at him and does all that fun stuff. But her calling card seems to be the ice cream scoop.
why don't you call yourself Neapolitan or
Yeah,
the Scoop?
and she incriminates Harley in this issue, and that's kind of hard, the tie-in with Harley. She dresses like Harley, and that makes the police think that it's Harley who's committing the murders, and it's um, carried on in the next book.
Keep it edgy, DC. All right. My underrated book of the week is a book that angered Stan Lee so much that he refused to allow it to ever be referenced in continuity ever again or to be reprinted while he was in charge. What?
Wow.
This book is Marvel Spotlight number 31, featuring Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., in his first solo story in years. Written by the man Jim Starlin, drawn by Howard Chaykin. This story attempts to explain, once and for all, why Nick Fury has not aged since World War II. Here's the explanation. It has to do with something called the Infinity Formula that Nick was exposed to. Keeps him from aging. Problem is, just like Pfizer, Nick needs to get an annual booster shot or he ages very, very quickly. That's all well and good. However, it's revealed in this story that Nick Fury has been embezzling from Shield for years in order to pay for the treatments. What? What? Nick, you're our hero, our war hero, our veteran, our Purple Heart honoree is embezzling from the government in order to keep himself young forever.
How did
This
this get
story,
past editorial?
this was the loosey goosey Marvel 70s where it
Oh,
was a shambles before Jim Shooter came on board as editor in chief. It was like get 17 pages to the printer by this date and we're good. So there wasn't a lot of editorial oversight at this point. This story apparently sent Stan Lee through the roof when he read it, according to Sean Howe's book, uh, and he reportedly forbade it from ever being reprinted or even referenced again while he was in charge. And I've read this 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 reaction from Stan in many, many different sources. So I don't think it's apocryphal. I think it's absolutely true. A very fine copy or so cost you about $5 to $15 on eBay. A 9.8 of Marvel Spotlight 31 sold in September of this year for $185. If you want to see the legacy of a Marvel Universe character have a giant dump taken upon it, this
wow.
is your book.
That is terrible.
I kind of get, conflict and the the arc, it's like I'm doing this, I hate myself for doing it, but I have to in order to survive. But I don't know. The Nick Fury I know would have just said, "Up, say la vie, I'm gonna die, I guess, because I can't steal from my employer."
Yeah, yeah, that goes it's counterintuitive to the character, and I think it was a bad play. And I don't blame Stan for not wanting that to ever see the light of day again. I am just appalled that someone would do that kind of thing to a character like Nick. You gotta
And
be.
credit to Jim Starlin. Young, you're in your 20s. You haven't really lived. You don't have these life experiences yet. You're trying to make a deadline. You're trying to do something new and edgy.
Mhm. And you know
Um,
what? You're also not looking 50 years ahead to,
right.
the character's legacy. Who would have known that Nick Fury would be such a pivotal character in the MCU?
Yeah. Great cover though. Great art. Uh, Unfortunate plot point. All right. And that is going to wrap it up for this week. Hey, hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you thought of our topics today. Do you think Nick Fury should be embezzling? I say no.
I see. Well,
If that would be before electronic transfers. So was he just like taking a briefcase to work and shoving 20s in every day? These questions I
yeah, that's a good question.
Hey, in the meantime, while you wait for our next live episode, make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Bronze and Modern Gods. And Richard, how can they support us here on YouTube?
They can like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell, and you'll be notified when we go live.
Thanks, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Everybody stay safe.